Happy Friday and welcome to today's episode of Friday Tech Bites. Kirsten, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Rick. TGIF, as always. How are you doing?
I'm beat up. I got in last night around 1 a.m. from San Francisco, and then tomorrow I head out to Australia. But I'm in Central Ohio today, as are you, and we'd love everyone in the streams to let us know where you're tuning in from. So I'm a little bit like between worlds here because it's a hot turn before we get out. We've already had some people mark into the streams where they're tuning in from. A lot of action on the map here today already. California, Georgia, one of the producers, the OH, and Chris up in Canada. Joe in California, welcome. And then some UK, Germany, and one of our other producers, Katie in Romania, already tuning in India representing. I think it was DJ, I think, a couple of names trying to watch the feeds as well. So, Kirsten, it's going to be a great topic. We gotta move because this one's a lot. What are we doing today?
Today we're going to show you how to deploy Veeam Backup for Azure from the marketplace. So Rick's going to do mostly demo, which I'm excited about. I love a good demo. And he's going to show how easy it is to get started.
All right, cool. So if we're going to deploy from the marketplace, no surprise, let's start at the Azure Marketplace. Now, I'm doing a little trick here. I have this browser, just so everybody knows. So this would be Chrome. This is account number 1 here. And this is my Aperture Labs account. We'll come back to that. So Kirsten, a lot of Veeam stuff in the marketplace. Where do I start?
So, first thing you need to do is take a look at all the Veeam stuff in the marketplace,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
And then with Veeam Backup for Azure, we have the Veeam Backup free edition, and then we also have the bring your own license. So if you're just getting started backing up and protecting your Azure machines, why don't you try out the free edition? And then later on, you could actually even attach your license to that machine, because I think to Veeam Backup, obviously, but I think you can do at least 10 workloads for free. Is that right?
That's right. 10 Azure VMs for free. So that's a good point. And right through the marketplace, you can always add a license later. So let's do it. I'm going to use a resource group that I already have made called VBA Deploy. This is just how I will deploy within Azure. So I'm going to drop it in there. And, the whole nature of the way we use the cloud, we do a lot of build up and tear down. So I'm just going to do FTB, Friday Tech Bytes, VBA, no dashes, VBA Deploy. Just that way I know if I ever need to clean up, that's what I need to clean up. We're going to put it in central US. Sounds pretty close and cozy, Kirsten, I think. And, there's a couple different, sizes and, gens that we can get. I'm just going to go with V4, which, what was that, like 2 weeks ago that it came out, version 4?
Yeah, which is exciting. We try to, bring more features into each product version, obviously, protect more different types of workloads and things like that. So.
Yeah, we got 3 different like t-shirt sizes we could rock out here. I'm going to go with the D2, which would be a medium type of size. And the infrastructure cost estimated at $80 a month. But again, I could go smaller or bigger. This is an interesting one. We're going to do a password. And I'm going to first put in a username. Let's put in my username. And Kirsten, if you've ever deployed this appliance, you'd notice that this password has to be 12 and 72 characters long. Why would it need to be so long?
For protection, so people can't hack your account, Rick. Duh.
Yeah, good point. I mean, the public cloud, everyone, is a global attack surface, right? So you want to give some intentionality to your deployment. You could also use SSH keys as well. Oh my gosh, my validation failed. Oh my gosh.
Oh no, what are you gonna do?
What did I do? I get to talking and clicking, Kirsten. Let me do this again.
You get really excited and you just keep going.
So I'm gonna go in VBA deploy. I'm gonna give it a name, FTB VBA deploy, just to know to clean it up. Yep. Okay. Yep. Let's do a username. And why don't you tell me if you see anything that you think I'm missing here?
Is this a quiz?
Passwords match. That's good. Let me take a look at the next steps, right? Remember, I just went through. You know what it was? Is the networking. I bet you that's what it was. Okay. The default image storage, fine. That looks good. Next, networking, because I want to use a public IP. So I already have this is actually really important, a virtual network that you're going to use. So I already have one because I've done one before, but you could always create a new one. So I'm actually going to go and make the new one here, a virtual network, and I'm just going to call it, let's call it that, and the IP is fine, public IP, yes, I want a public IP. Now I could probably take one that's in use, but I'm not because it's a new virtual network group. Now, one of the things I like to recommend, especially if you're just playing around with it, is delete this when you're done, right? Kirsten, we've all had these scenarios where we don't quite clean up after ourselves in the cloud, but that's a good one to release those public IP addresses, so something to think about. All right, so we've got this going here, and let me make sure here I'm not, no load balancing for any of that is needed. Okay, no changes here for what I'm doing. Okay, I think I'm all right so far. So I'm going to review and create. Let's check that validation. There we go. This is encouraging. Now, yeah, validation pass. So let's go ahead and create it. The big thing that I skipped on that, and when you deploy this for the first time, you'll probably also have that. Always check that networking step. That's one that's probably going to get you just like that. So this is why we do this, Kirsten, so everybody knows. Now, do you know what this create VM deployment engine is? Are you familiar with that? This is something that you're given right here, but I mean, the name kind of gives it away, but what's happening right now?
It's creating the virtual machine where Veeam Backup for Azure is going to reside.
And the other components too. So when I zoomed in, there were 3. Now there's 5. Did you catch that? So like there's one that's in process here. So you can actually see exactly what the automation package, lack of a better word, the deployment is doing. And Veeam Backup from Microsoft Azure that we'll actually use, that itself is a Azure VM, right?
Yes.
So it itself is a VM.
I was going to say it was a Linux-based machine.
Oh, well, there we go. But in Azure terms, it would be an Azure virtual machine. So
that's true.
I should have started here before because there were no virtual machines in this count, but there's one, and that's our name, Friday Tech Bytes VBA deploy. Now, one personal recommendation is to make object names in the Azure cloud that are pretty self-describing, because you want to know exactly what they are. Now, the other thing that's interesting, now, Kirsten, why would I only have one VM in this whole Azure subscription? Why would I even do that?
I would say maybe that you did this way because of security reasons. You have your backup server in one subscription, and maybe you have your production workloads in another subscription, trying to keep those separate.
So Kirsten and I kind of didn't really practice some of the small talk, but I can tell you she's listening to me from over the years, because this is a really good administrative boundary. The first thing I said is that the lab account is in the Chrome browser, and then over in the Edge browser, I have a different account. So that's a very good point, an Azure subscription. So let's go take a look at this Azure VM that is now probably doing it's being born, so it's probably just not ready. It takes a second, right? So with that, Kirsten, there was a piece of news that we wanted to bring up to everybody. What did we want to talk about? Something new coming on.
Yeah, so we definitely want to hear your feedback. We've been doing these live streams now since World Backup Day 2020, back when we were all locked down in our houses. And we want to get your feedback. We want to hear, what you want to learn more about from Veeam. Tell us about our industry insights, our Friday Tech Bites. If you want to, switch days. Maybe you don't like Fridays. Maybe you want to hear from us every Wednesday morning. So yeah, definitely please do the survey, because we want to make sure that we're giving you content that you love and you want to keep coming back to. So definitely
Yeah,
check
because
out that QR code.
indeed, we kind of, I say fell into the live streams, but we kind of fell into them. And we have done changes and stuff, but we haven't really done any survey or feedback to what the market wants for it. All right, so let's see what the results come in on that survey. So if you have a chance, don't leave the stream, but definitely fill out the survey. So let's go back over here and let's see. Aha, now we have something new, right? So we're able to log in, and let's go ahead and go. And now let's see. It gives it away. What's happening right now? Updater. Okay, so even though it's a virtual appliance in the cloud, we still want to keep it updated. So when this appliance is born, a couple of things need to happen. And by the way, piece of trivia, Veeam Backup for Microsoft Azure, Veeam Backup for AWS, Veeam Backup for Google, Kirsten, all three of these products are written in what operating system?
Linux.
That's right. So that's new for Veeam, right? We're used to these Windows apps and stuff. So we're doing these updates inside of the virtual appliance here as it's born. And then you can do it within the updater tool once it's online and running. Now, one thing I want to show you. So I deployed through the marketplace, right? This is a very easy way to get started. And I like to say it's only slow if you wait for it, right? But this is booting up here, and it's going to do these three steps here. But what you can also do is, what are we looking at now? I switched it up, right? I'm inside of Veeam Backup and Replication. And, did you know, Kirsten, and did the audience know, I can also do this right here. So that's kind of cool. If I wanted to do that. Now, there's a couple of things that change positively if I do that off the top of your head, Kirsten. If I were to deploy Veeam Backup for Azure this way, what kind of things would change for me?
Oh, Rick, that's a good question. That's a good question, Rick.
Why would anybody want to work for me
I
when
would
I throw you on
say
the bus under the bus
what
like
was
that?
changed. So once you get it set up in Azure, basically you would actually be able to manage your Azure backups and restores in Veeam Backup and Replication. Now,
Central management, yeah.
Yeah, so when you're deploying it, I'm thinking that it's probably going to be the same process. However, you're going to have the Veeam Backup Wizard driving you through creating this, which we all know and love. What's that saying that you always say about the Backup Wizard?
Nothing is more than 9 clicks of a wizard or something like that. But exactly
Yes.
right. These are the same options, they're just refactored for Veeam BNR. And then we also expose the external repository so you could restore stuff on premises. But probably your favorite product comes to life then if we went that way, Kirsten.
Yeah, Veeam 1.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
because once you start backing up your machines in Azure, you're gonna probably want to monitor those data protection operations, right? So Veeam One's going to be able to provide you with monitoring, making sure your machines are protected and they're backed up, and they're finishing successfully. So if you're already using Veeam Backup for Azure, you have it connected to Veeam Backup and Replication. Make sure you add it into Veeam One, and we can start watching that for you.
I was going to ask the stream here, if you are doing Veeam Backup for Azure, are you marketplace only and by itself, or did you connect to an existing appliance, or did you deploy through Veeam Backup and Replication? Are you on hashtag marketplace, or are you on hashtag central management? Let us know. Drop it in the comments. And I'm just kind of curious what you might be doing if you're in Azure. And if you're also using AWS or Google Cloud, same question. Let me know how you're doing that. All right, looks like it's ready to log in now, Kirsten, eh?
Yeah, let's log in.
All right, my very long, very complicated password. Hopefully I remembered it. I did. The EULA, yep. And let's get into it. Now, one of the cool things about Veeam Backup for Microsoft Azure, and really all of the cloud backup products, is that right here, the configuration wizard kind of tells you the first 3 things you need to do, okay? Now, connect an Azure account, good. Add a repository, that's where the backups go, and then create a policy. Now, adding an Azure account, I mentioned from the start, I'm using 2 different accounts. So it's a really good practice, in my professional opinion, for this use case of backing up Azure stuff, to have the backup infrastructure in a completely different Azure account. You have a built-in administrative boundary. It's really, really cool. And you can have multiple in here. So let's go ahead and do it. Add. All right. So let's call this the production data. Okay. And just so I keep them straight, I'm just going to call it B4 because that's the email address associated with it. So I've given this Azure account a name. Now the service account, to add it in here, I really like this mechanism here. You do a special type of authentication. So let's do it. Now, I don't really know exactly what this is called, but it's like a device login mechanism. So let me zoom into this real quick. This device login will have an Azure account pass a code this code down here that's going to allow me to do these special types of functions. So let's go to the other Azure account. I'm in the Azure account now in the other browser. Let me refresh, make sure it didn't time out. And I mentioned B4. This is my other account, the B4Real at USA.net. So let's go in here. And now, Kirsten, have you've done this on AWS? You said, is that right?
Yeah, I have.
Is it pretty similar to what I'm doing right
Yeah,
here?
I would say that it is pretty similar. Deploying the machine, getting it set up, going to the public IP, logging in, and then yeah, when you first start, you have to, add your accounts, get things set up, get that repository added as well. So yeah, it's pretty similar, a little bit different because, why wouldn't it be different? This is two different, cloud operating systems, cloud platforms. So, but do we have enough time now to go to the map and check that out, Rick, or what do you think?
Well, I'm going to just do my multi-factor real quick. So let's do that because all of you should know how that works. If the producers tell me it's ready, then let's do it. I wasn't looking because I'm driving a demo.
Yeah, it's definitely ready.
All right, well, let's switch over to the map. I've done this verification and we'll hold this right here. Oh, wow, we got some action in Europe, that's for sure. Let's me bring up the chat here. Let's see what we got. Who's tuning in? Florida, Louisiana have joined. Dominican Republic, UK, Germany, and France. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Down in South America, we have Argentina. I will see you in 3 weeks, I think, for the Veeam forum down there. And then in the Middle East, we have Turkey, Dubai, South Africa, and again, India. So really good amount of action there. Kirsten, getting any vacation ideas? You always take really good vacations, by the way.
Yeah, I don't have any vacation ideas right now, Rick, but something might hit me, when I'm walking down the street, might have a vacation idea come up or something.
Just for the record, I don't want anything to hit you, okay? Because you're very important to the team. But this is also very important. Trying to sign into the Azure CLI, right? So this is the permissions. And by the way, we document this cross command line interface and all the requirements. These are documented over at Help Center, right? You can always find, Kirsten, you're a master of navigating the tech docs over there. So there we go. The authentication came through. So now I've added that production account, the B4Real account, into this Veeam Backup for Microsoft Azure appliance. So now what this means is that those resources are going to be eligible for me to build a backup. All right, I'm not going to do the AD groups. I'm keeping it simple simp. And there we go. Now the other trick, Kirsten, is I want to also add this account, the backup account, the Aperture Labs account, which is our lab, because this is going to hold the backup storage. Okay, so if you remember the wizard, it asked me to do 3 things: add Azure accounts, 1 or more. It also asked me to add
a repository,
and that's going to be in the backup account, and then build a policy. If you're just getting started in a lab, you could very well be fine with just 1 account, deploying the Veeam Backup for Azure appliance in an account and backing up resources inside of that. But I'm going to show you where you're deploying it in 1 account. This is the Aperture Labs account, the kind of lab account. And then the B4Real account is the production account. And I really emphasize that administrative boundary. So let me know if anybody thinks that's a good idea. I see William, I see Chris, some people that I know on the line that are pretty sharp individuals. Joe Davenport earned some cred by being a return attendee. I'll throw you some hearts in the stream for that. But let me know if in the stream, if you guys think that the separate Azure account or AWS or Google Cloud, if that's a good boundary mechanism. I personally think it is, as well as, the permissions and things like that. But I think it's a good one. All right, so let's add so if that's production, let's add the lab account. I'll call it AP Labs, which is what we call our lab. And actually, the enterprise thing to do, Kirsten, would be fill out the description. But this is me. So same thing. I'm actually, instead of going to the other browser, I'm doing it in this account. I'm going to copy this code, and I'm going to put in the code over. Whoa, wrong thing. I'm going to put in the code, and it's the same framework, but it's going to ask me to sign in to the lab account, which is the Aperture Labs, which this browser already is. It's going to ask me, are you sure you're down with the Azure CLI? Same question. Let's do it. And then it's been validated just here, and I should catch it right here. So let's see. There it is. Caught it. All right. So same thing. So I've added both of these accounts. And what this means is that this appliance can then, access these for both a backup repository and for the backup policies to be built. So we've tackled the first thing. Anything you think I'm missing here, or anything you think I did wrong, Kirsten, or anything you think we want to add to that?
I think that you're doing pretty good, Rick. The only thing that I would say is there was that portion in the configuration options about workers and worker roles. I don't know if anybody's unfamiliar with that. If you maybe want to give a brief overview about what a worker is and what it does.
Yeah, sure. So for those familiar with Veeam, it's loosely equivalent to a proxy. It's a data mover. And while we've watched this finish, that's a really good thing to bring up, because the workers will do the work of the Veeam backup for Microsoft Azure policies. And they basically come alive, receive their instructions, and do their work and turn off. And they're somewhat ephemeral in that regard. So it's a really efficient way to do that, get that done. So it's good stuff. So now we'll go here and add a repository. And by default, that should be okay, but we'll check it before we run the policy. So I'm going to add one called FTB VBA deploy, and I'll know to clean that up later. And then it's going to go into the lab account. And then I'm going to specify my storage account. And Kirsten and I did a dry run of this the other day, and this was the name we were using, which is the storage account, which we'll take that. And then inside of that storage account, we'll have a blob container, or maybe we won't. Oh, that's right. We cleaned it up. So let's go make it. So in VSC VBA deploy, I've got a file share. But what I also want to do in this storage is make a blob container, which is not there. So let's make one called FTB. Let's type in the right VBA deploy. All right. And I'm going to create that. And I might have to redo that wizard, but let's see here real quick. So this is the type of stuff, friends, that when you make it new for the first time, Kirsten, I'm going to mess it up. We did it. I even put it in the notes. We have to turn off something on these. What was it? Remember?
I don't know, Rick.
It was Azure Blob Soft Delete, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Remember
now
that?
It's all coming back. It's all coming back.
Now
to
this
me.
is a property of, and I can never remember, is it a property of the storage account, or is it a property of the container? So let's double check that. This is something that it will get you. So blobs is enabled. That's good as a parent of the whole storage account. But then Azure Blob Soft Delete is not on the property of the account, which is good. So then we'll go
Yeah, that
look.
makes sense.
Yeah, and then let's look in the individual containers, and let's take a look at this one, and let's take its properties and version level immutability. Well, what's another discussion once we have good news there? But I think it's okay, because now that I think about it, it's a property of the storage account, because we had this happen the other day, remember? So let's see what we get here. We'll find out because it'll tell you, and then the solution is to use the to turn off the Azure Blob soft delete. And the fact that I can do it, it actually let me do it, which is good. So we're in good shape. So let's create a new folder called FTB VBA deploy. All right. So this is just the folder that'll live within that blob container, and let us go. And if you had a completely new Veeam backup for Microsoft Azure deployment, it would actually stop you at a point before about Azure soft delete, Azure blob soft delete, because I've already disabled it, which is why it proceeded. So that is one thing that'll get you stuck. If you're like, why isn't it working the same as this awesome demo? So we'll let that finish, and we have that done. So now we'll go back into our configuration, and there's only one thing left to do is make a policy.
Yay.
So let's do something quick and easy because we're running low on time. I'm going to do an Azure file backup. Now that's the new thing in version 4. A lot of people think backing up Azure VMs, right? So to show that, I'm actually going to go a little rogue here. I have a file share from 2019. Now it hasn't changed, but nonetheless, there's 2 gig quota in there. And in the production data, we have a file share. Okay, that's one of the new things that are out there. So let's make a new policy of Azure files, and we'll call it FTB VBA deploy file share backup production. And one thing, again, just like on-premises stuff, always make good names that clearly tell you what you're doing, right? So I'm going to take the production account, and I don't remember what region that one was in, Kirsten. Let's double check. This storage account. This is something I did really good back in the day. This storage account. Guess where it is? US East, right? I made the name incur where it is, which is good. So if I go here, I would have that region, and then I would have one file share. So let's browse it. And well, no, it's not there. Where is it? I thought it was in US East. Maybe it was East 2 by its name. Was it East or East 2?
I thought it looked like East, but maybe it's in East 2. Is East in Virginia and East 2 in Ohio?
Well, no, that's the other cloud. Don't be starting fights. Come on,
sorry,
Kirsten.
guys. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So let me see. I have it in East, and it is a file share. Let me start with a storage account. I know that it was browse. Oh, why is it doing? Uh-oh. I don't know why that's not working, Kirsten. So I'm going to actually go a little different here. I have a backup plan. I don't know why that didn't show up, so let me make a different one. Let's do the lab backup. So I have a file share here on this account, the lab account. I know that I have one, and I know that it's in US Central. And the resources I want to protect is a file share, called VBA deploy, the one we made the other day, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And in there, I think I have a PowerPoint, just a real quick policy we'll make here. So if I look at the storage accounts in the lab account, there will be, hopefully, a storage account. Yeah. And then a file share, and that's a special type of Azure service that has VBA deploy, and in there should be 2 PowerPoints. Okay, so I'm holding some PowerPoints in Azure. Nonetheless, it's a good example, but let's go back to the appliance, which I've lost. It was in Chrome, and back over here. So I have that file share. Yeah. And then at this point, I'm building a policy, which is great. I'll just take the defaults because we're low on time, but this is like that GFS retention, a pretty flexible retention within these Azure backups. If something doesn't go as expected, you can retry. Oh, favorite thing, cost estimates, right? Now, these file shares are small, so it's estimating 1 cent a month, right? Now, if you had a lot of VMs, you're going to have bigger storage, but it's really important that you get that estimate, which is really nice. And that's an estimate of the backup cost. So let's bag it and tag it. Let's run it. So basically what I've done here is a really small backup job of these Azure files, or these files that are inside of an Azure file share, and it already finished and was a success. I know we're late on time, Kirsten, but should I destroy it and bring it back, or are you trusting me that it works?
I know that it works because, with Veeam, it just works.
Just work it. That's right.
But if you want to, I mean, a backup is only good as it's restored. So maybe we should destroy it and restore it just to, show
Uh-huh.
people what we're
Uh-huh.
made of over here.
I like to say backup for show, restore for dough. There
Oh,
you go.
good
Good
one.
one. There you
Good
go.
one.
All right. So I lost that file. Let's bring it back. Now, this is just, again, a really quick example. Let's take a file share and let's do a file level recovery. Now, I know I walked through that, but that data protection view to protect the data, that's really where to go. The account to use for the restore will be the lab account. And then the reason, we have some handling. We could put it elsewhere, or let's just put it right back where it came from. That's pretty straightforward and easy. FTB, that's what we're doing. All right, so now what we're going to do, Kirsten, is it's going to launch the file level recovery, right? So this protected data, that's where we go to drive these recoveries.
Nice.
And there it is. So it's something you got to look for, but you find this little FLR, this file level recovery wizard here. And then we can browse into this, and then I'm going to find the contents of that share. So this is kind of cool. So this was
Yeah.
just like really quick and easy. Whoa, not my Zoom it day. I deleted the one called threefold strategy. Let's go double check, right? I have one file in there, which is my ultra resilience PPT, my favorite one that I've ever done. But my second favorite one that I've ever done was this one. So what I'm going to do here is add it to the restore list right there. That'll make that file be part of the job. And then let's just do it. So now that I have it in there, I'm going to run that restore and wait, add it to the list, and it's on the list. And did I lose the option here? I lost it.
Go to restore list at the top.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Sometimes
Appreciate
you
that.
need an extra set of eyes.
That's right. Restore it. And it does have some interesting handling. If it's there, it'll keep it or overwrite it, but it doesn't matter because I know it's not there. And then from there, we should go back to VBA deploy, and it probably will just pop right in there. Look at that.
Wow.
All right. Wow, file recovery. But end to end, guys, I really pushed myself to try to get this all done in a hot minute here. I tried, guys. I tried. It's hard to like live stream and talk and banter and demo at the same time. But
Yeah.
let's remind everybody, one really important thing we want to do is that survey, Kirsten. Tell us one more time about that.
Yeah, so we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want us to present and talk about on these Tech Bites. We want you to get feedback on what you think about our live streams. And then also, just any other, opinions you may have. Maybe you're like, yeah, Fridays are, fun, but I love a good Tuesday. So you never tell us. We want to hear from you. We want to make these the best ever for you. And so the only way we can do that is by getting your opinions on it. So
yeah, the survey data is very helpful as we innovate the content here, maybe moving the days, adjusting the content in terms of what day gets what content. We're not sure, is it the same audience, is it different audiences and such? So no, good stuff. And again, thank you for the producers for pushing that out into the streams. And no show next week on either one. 4 of us from product strategy are going to be in Australia. Not going to work. So we will soon promote the other ones, but we have more coming. But anyways, thank you so much for winging it here with me today, Kirsten.
yeah, thank you. It was, as always, it was a pleasure.
Well, and you kept me honest there. Your eyes were better than mine. I'm like, what did I miss? I get my little stage fright going on. And a big thanks to Mark and Katie, the producers, bringing this content to you. Could not do it without them. So on behalf of the whole Veeam team, everyone, thanks for watching and have a great weekend.